Welcome to today's seminar on root cause analysis. I am Gary Freeman, and I have over 30 years' experience working in the pharmaceutical and device clinical areas, and this tenure has included a lot of work with sponsors and site audits and consulting with many groups in regard to regulatory authority inspections. This has brought about a lot of documentation issues, as you can expect. Documentation of a good root cause analysis in relation to the CAPA, Corrective Action, Preventive Action plan, is essential for regulatory authorities when they do any kind of an inspection of either a sponsor file or a site file. They expect that we're going to have a corrective action plan for any deficiencies, and when necessary, that we'll have a corrective action, preventive action plan. And we'll talk about when we might not need to move into a formal CAPA plan, but just have a corrective action and not take the extra time to go all the way through a preventive action. So we'll talk today about methods or techniques of arriving at a root cause, because that's part of both the corrective action and the preventive action. Why is something happening? What was the cause? And we'll look at the proper intervention to resolve those issues that we find in our daily tasks in clinical research. All of the regulatory authorities understand that we're dealing with people. Everything that we do is people-oriented, and people do make mistakes. We hate to admit that, but we do make mistakes. And so they expect that we will have some mistakes in our clinical trial. The important thing is that we do something about it, that in our monitoring, we notice those mistakes, and we work with the sites, or we work with our clinical team if it's something in our own office, to make it right. And that if it's something that would be effective to other sites or other studies, that we've done something about that to prevent it from happening for future trials or future sites. So by the end of this session, I hope that the terms gap analysis, root cause analysis, intervention, effectiveness will be common in your vocabulary, in your everyday practice. And according to the FDA Quality System Evaluation approach, once a problem or noncompliance is identified in a work process, it must be resolved before continuing the activity or releasing the product. So it's very, very important that we get this right and that we don't have continued noncompliance. Why do we monitor? To prevent noncompliance or prevent the continuation of noncompliance. So the basic element here is noncompliance. Why do we have it? Well, we're going to have some because we're dealing with people. But how do we prevent it? How do we fix it so it doesn't continue on? How do we get the data that is going to have the integrity that a regulatory authority will need to make an assessment as to whether we can market our product? So root cause takes a major focus in all that we do. So if we look at our learning objectives for today, we're going to talk about the concepts around that root cause. We're going to talk about what we call the Gilbert's root cause analysis diagnostic process. It sounds like a lot. It's used in other industries as well. It's how we look at the cause. How do we find out what is causing a problem? And then we're going to apply that in our clinical trial site management. What do we do about it once we know what the cause is? How can we work with our team, whether it be our clinical team in the pharmaceutical device company or CRO, or if it's at the site and the site personnel. We need to think about the right intervention if we're going to be successful. And then we'll use this to manage compliance, again, whether it be in our own office or at the site level. So as we get started then, we're going to be looking at managing compliance in our research industry. And I've explained to you how vital that is as we move forward. The regulatory authorities globally, not just FDA, all expect us to have quality systems. That's part of good clinical practice. And that's in our engineering areas for devices as well, and our manufacturing areas in pharmaceuticals. So we need quality systems to support the expectations of our regulatory authorities. They're going to ask us to identify the noncompliance. Now, to do this, we might need SOPs or work instructions if it's at site levels. We're going to have to intervene, and we're going to have to evaluate whether it works or not. There's no point in pointing out problems if we're going to just drop the problem. And our proof that we've done that is our documentation. So we have to have good documentation for any reviewers, whether it be in our own project management or an inspector from the FDA or a QA person from our own office. Without delving into root cause analysis, our intervention can't be effectively identified and designed. We need to go that extra step of spending the time to look for the root cause.